Hey, welcome to Rev It Up with Randy. Handy Randy here. We're going to rev it up with not 57 Chevy, no, 283s, no. Today's show, we're going to be revving it up with a Rocket 88 engine. And back in the 50s, Oldsmobile had the hot engine. And then that Rocket 88, there was even a song about that, a Rocket 88 engine. But what we're going to do is start and jump in the Mr. Wizard's Wayback Machine and take you to the Akron Fulton Airport. And a few years ago, a bunch of drag race friends in the area decided to chip in and buy a Ohio historical plaque. This is the only historical plaque representing drag racing in, for sure, Ohio. And it's located at the Akron Fulton Airport, which is on Triplet Boulevard. And you can see this, it'll be there forever. And it's dedicated not only to these great legends from the Akron area, but all of the drag racers that started on the streets in Barwood and Akron, and then moved to Akron Airport and raced there every Sunday, and then once a month would go out on the airport and race on the airport. It was the only sanctioned NHRA track east of the Mississippi River. And we recognized Odie Smith, both of the Arfon brothers, Art and Walt, and a good friend, Akron Arlen Vanke. Anyway, we've got another story that revolved around that airport, and there was a brothers from Goodyear Heights put together a very special car, and they put a Oldsmobile V8 engine in a very special car. And this is the picture of the engine now. Now, before we go to this, let's bounce back. I want to show you a rough-looking picture of this engine right there. That engine was used in the late 50s all the way to 1960 by the Hollish Brothers from Goodyear Heights. Three brothers teamed up and used this and put this engine together. Now, if most people don't know too much about blowers, but the modern engine with a Detroit diesel blower, which is that thing on top of the engine, they're run by belts, rubber belts. These fellas came up with a chain-driven blower, and then there was a fellow that was good with sheet metal, and he made that homemade scoop for the blower. This engine sat in a machine shop in our area for over 50 years, covered up with a tarp, and finally the owner of the engine decided to sell it on eBay. And a fellow from Ypsilanti, Michigan, Todd Schmidt, and that's the next picture, purchased that engine and put that engine, cleaned it all up, and put it and rebuilt the car around the engine. Now, let me explain about buying that engine. His purpose was to buy that engine and put it in like a T bucket or Model T hot rod. But his friends in Michigan said, Todd, that engine has a story. There's something about that engine that we've got to find out what it was in. So they did some detective work. They went through magazines, hot rod magazines, drag racing magazines, and because of the unique scoop with the moon decals on it, they were able to, with good detective work, find a picture of that race car back in the late 50s, early 60s. That was actually, it was pretty good, as it was raced at the NHRA Nationals in Detroit. They found it and said, Todd, you need to not put that in a T bucket. You need to maybe, well, Todd came up with that. I'm going to rebuild that car. I don't have blueprints. I'm just going by pictures, and I'm going to rebuild that race car that was pretty famous. And he did, and as a matter of fact, that car races today. That body of that car was actually a Bantam truck. There you go. There was a company in our area. Actually, it was in Butler, Pennsylvania, called the Bantam car company, and that was offspring of the Austin America, which is, you've maybe heard of Austin Healey, and well, they came to America and they built small cars and small trucks, and that body is a Bantam truck. Now another story about Bantams. The Bantam Company, very small little company in Butler, Pennsylvania, struggling to build and sell these cars. Not a big market. Again, they were up against the big three in Detroit and Studebaker and Hudson and everybody like that. So they were trying to stay in business, and the government sent out bids in the late 30s. They said, our military needs a utility or a general purpose vehicle, a quarter-ton truck, not a half-ton truck, a quarter-ton truck, 500 pounds. So the Bantam Company put together that thing right there and won the government award for the general purpose government vehicle by Bantam. And Bantam built somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3,000 of those Bantam utility vehicles. Most of those were built for overseas. We were the Lend-Lease program. We were selling and building vehicles for England, and even in Russia, those vehicles ended up. Okay, the Bantam won that award. The problem with Bantam, they were small. They only had 20 employees, and they couldn't build very many. And the government decided, as we got nearer and nearer to World War II, they needed many, many, many of these vehicles. It worked great, four-wheel drive, quarter-ton. They could get two people on a 50 caliber machine gun and whatever. It was a great idea, but Bantam wasn't big enough. So the government went out to Willys Overland, which was located in Toledo, Ohio, and Ford, and said, we need you to build these things. And thus, the Jeep came into advent. There it is. There's a Jeep. It came into, as a matter of fact, even today, the new Jeeps have that same basic looking front grille. That was basically the big difference between the Bantam and the Jeep that we have today, was that front grille. They protected the headlights, but that was the car that won the war, basically. Thousands of them built. But we have to thank Bantam Company, and that brings us back to the Hollish Brothers and their Bantam truck. The engine was put in and rebuilt, and Todd successfully reintroduced the Miscalculation to the speedways. That's the old one. That was back in the 50s. You can see the Oldsmobile next to it. I don't think the engine, this was before they put the big blower engine on it, but that was the basic Bantam truck that they raced at Akron, Ohio. That particular car with the new engine did very well. It was very fast. It was difficult. It was difficult to drive, and but they did well. And today, Miscalculation is out at racetracks throughout the area, all based on that engine that's set in a machine shop in the Akron area. And that, again, that's the old Hollish car that were raced. As a matter of fact, 1959 in Detroit, the NHRA championships were raced, and that particular car in their class ended up in second place. And there's another story behind that second place finish, is they were using flagmen back in 1959, not the Christmas tree, the lights to start the cars. And the flagmen kept, they said, hey, we've got an error, we misstarted, to come back and try it again. And they did that over and over and over again, just to the Hollish Brothers. And finally, the clutch blew out, and instead of winning their division, they finished in second place. I think politics may have been involved, because Ohio was killing them. There was a guy named Montgomery that won his class. Odie Smith won his class. Art Arfons won the fastest car there. And they're going, what's going on here? Why are all these Akron, Ohio, and Ohio cars doing so well against these cars from California? Drag racing, we own that. So, but anyway, it all started with the Rocket 88, with the blower, with Ernie Long building that homemade scoop on the blower, the moon decals, and that basically is the story of the Hollish Brothers and Miscalculation, and rebuilt by Todd Schmidt from Ypsilanti, Michigan, and now out at the racetracks today that you can go. If you go to Dragway 42 or all the tracks in the area, you'll see Miscalculation today, the rebuilt Miscalculation, with a lot of Akron, Ohio history. That's the story, and I'm sticking to it. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Rev It Up with Randy and the Rocket 88 engine and the history story of not only the Jeep. By the way, government purpose, they changed the name to Jeep. Willie's got the name, bought the name, and today the Jeeps are still in action, aren't they? Thanks for watching Rev It Up here on WAOH TV.